निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ओं गणेशाय नमः। ଭାରତ ଭୂମିର ସୁଯୋଗ୍ୟ ଦାୟାଦ ମାନବ ସେବାକୁ ଯିଏ ଧର୍ମ ରୂପେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରି ହିନ୍ଦୁ ଧର୍ମ ଚେତନାର ବିକାଶ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ସାରା ଜଗତକୁ ପରିଭ୍ରମଣ କରି ତାର ପ୍ରସାର କରିଥିଲେ। ଆଧ୍ୟାତ୍ମିକତାର ପରିଭାଷାକୁ ସବୁରି ହୃଦୟରେ ପହଞ୍ଚେଇ ପାରିଥିଲେ ନିଜର ବାଗ୍ମିତା ବଳରେ। ତାଙ୍କରି ପୁଣ୍ୟତିଥିରେ ଏହି ଶୁଭ ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟାରେ ଆଜି ଆମ ଶୁଭ ସ୍ୱାମୀ ବିବେକାନନ୍ଦ ଲୋକ ସଂସଦ ବିଚାରଧାରା ବିଭାଗ ସୋନପୁର ଜିଲ୍ଲାର 42ତମ ଏହି ପାଠଚକ୍ର ଅନୁଷ୍ଠିତ ହେବାକୁ ଯାଉଛି। ଏଇ ସାନ୍ଧ୍ୟ ଆସରରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ସମସ୍ତ ଜ୍ଞାନୀ ଗୁଣୀ ବିଜ୍ଞ ସୁଧୀ ଜନଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ ସଂଯୋଜିକା ନୀଳକାନ୍ତି ପଟ୍ଟନାୟକ ହାର୍ଦ୍ଦିକ ସ୍ୱାଗତ ଜଣାଉଛି ଏବଂ ସାରସ୍ୱତ ପ୍ରଣାମ ସଭିଙ୍କୁ ଜଣାଉଛି। ଯେକୌଣସି କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭ ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଈଶ୍ୱରଙ୍କ ନାମସ୍ମରଣ ବିଧେୟ। ତେଣୁ ଏହି ଆନୁଷ୍ଠାନିକ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭରେ ମୁଁ ଆମ ଗହଣରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ଜଣେ ସୁବିଜ୍ଞ ଜ୍ଞାନୀ ଗୁଣୀ ଶଙ୍କର୍ଷଣ ସାର୍ ମହୋଦୟଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ ରଖିବି ସେ ତାଙ୍କର ସୁଲଳିତ କଣ୍ଠରେ ଏହି କାର୍ଯ୍ୟର ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭ ସଙ୍ଗୀତ ବା ମନ୍ତ୍ର ଗାୟନ କରି ସଭାଟିକୁ ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭ କରିବା ହେବେ। ସ୍ୱାଗତ ସାର୍ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ।
ଓମ୍ 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 ହରି ଓମ୍ ତତ୍ସତ୍ ହରି ଓମ୍ ତତ୍ସତ୍ ହରି ଓମ୍ ତତ୍ସତ୍। ଓଂକାରସ୍ୟ ପରଂ ବ୍ରହ୍ମ ଓଁ ନିରାଳମ୍ବନ ହରି ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ ଲୋକନାଥ ନୀଳାଦ୍ରିଶ ପର ହରି। ମହର୍ଷି କପିଳାଚାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଲୋକଚାରୀଶ୍ୱର ହରି ପଦ୍ମପତ୍ର ବିଶାଳାକ୍ଷ ପଦ୍ମଗର୍ଭ ପର ହରି। ଯୋଗ ମାୟା ଗୁଣରୂପ ଜଗଜ୍ଜନୀଶ୍ୱର ହରି କଳ୍ପଦ୍ରୁମ ପାଦ ତାରି କଳ୍ପକାରି ସ୍ୱଂ ହରି। ମାୟାଧର ବର୍ଣ୍ଣଧାରୀ ଯୋଗୀ ସହସ୍ତିତ ହରି ମନ୍ତ୍ର ଜ୍ଞାନ ଦାତା ଚ ସର୍ବଦାତା ପର ହରି। ଅଖିଳ ଜନ ଗୁରୁ ହରି ମୋ ନାଥ ଶରଣ ତୋରି ମୋ ନାଥ ଶରଣ ତୋହରି ମୋ ନାଥ ଶରଣ ତୋରି। ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ନମସ୍କାର।
ବହୁତ ବହୁତ ଭଲ ଲାଗିଲା ସାର୍। ଗୋଟେ ଆଧ୍ୟାତ୍ମିକତାର ପରିବେଶ ଆପଣ ଆସରରେ ଇଏ କରିଦେଲେ। ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଆସର ତରଫରୁ ଅଶେଷ ଅଶେଷ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଜଣେ। ଆସରରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ସଂସଦର ଆଜୀବନ ସଦସ୍ୟା ଶ୍ରୀମତୀ ଯମୁନା ମହାପାତ୍ର ମିଶ୍ରଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ ଜଣାଏ ସେ ତାଙ୍କର ବିବେକ ବାଣୀ ଉପସ୍ଥାପନା କରିବା ହେବେ। ସ୍ୱାଗତ ମହୋଦୟ।
ଶୁଭ ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟା। ମୁଁ ଯମୁନା ମହାପାତ୍ର ମିଶ୍ର ବିବେକବାଣୀ ପାଠ କରୁଛି। ଧର୍ମ ଏକ ତେବେ ସମ୍ପ୍ରଦାୟ ଅନେକ। ଯେଉଁ ମୁହୂର୍ତ୍ତରେ ତୁମେ ଧର୍ମର ଗୋଟିଏ ନାମ ଦେବାକୁ ଯାଅ ଏହାକୁ ସ୍ୱାତନ୍ତ୍ର୍ୟ ଦେଇ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଧର୍ମରୁ ଅଲଗା କରିପକାଅ। ସେତେବେଳେ ଏହା ଗୋଟିଏ ସମ୍ପ୍ରଦାୟରେ କେବଳ ନିଜର ମତଟିକୁ ହିଁ ପ୍ରଚାର କରେ ଓ ଏହା ଘୋଷଣା କରିବାକୁ ଛାଡେ ନାହିଁ ଯେ ଏହା ହିଁ ଏକମାତ୍ର ସତ୍ୟ ଏବଂ ଅନ୍ୟ କେଉଁଠାରେ ସତ୍ୟ ନାହିଁ। ପକ୍ଷାନ୍ତରେ ଧର୍ମ ବିଶ୍ୱାସ କରେ ଯେ ଜଗତରେ ଗୋଟିଏ ମାତ୍ର ଧର୍ମ ଚାଲି ଆସୁଛି ଏବଂ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମଧ୍ୟ ଅଛି। ଦୁଇଟି ଧର୍ମ କେବେ ହେଲେ ନଥିଲା ଗୋଟିଏ ମାତ୍ର ଧର୍ମ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ସ୍ଥାନରେ ତାହାର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଦିଗ ଉପସ୍ଥାପିତ କରୁଛି। ସ୍ୱାମୀ
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ, ସୁନ୍ଦର ଉପସ୍ଥାପନା କଲେ। ଆଜିର ମୋହନୀୟ ପାବନ ସଭାରେ ସଭାପତିତ୍ୱ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିଥିବା ତରଭା ମାଟିର ସୁଯୋଗ୍ୟ ସନ୍ତାନ, ଅବସରପ୍ରାପ୍ତ ଶିକ୍ଷକ, ସମାଜସେବୀ ତଥା ଭାଷା ସାହିତ୍ୟର ଉନ୍ନତି ଦିଗରେ ଅବିରତ ପ୍ରୟାସ କରୁଥିବା ଏକ ଅନନ୍ୟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିତ୍ୱ। ବୟସର ଅପରାହ୍ନରେ ବି ଛିଡ଼ା ହୋଇ ସେ ଯେଭଳି ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ନିର୍ବାହ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ତାହା ଆମ ସଭିଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ପ୍ରେରଣାଦାୟକ ଅଟେ। ସେ ଆମ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ପରମ ପୂଜ୍ୟ ଗୁରୁ। ସେ ଶ୍ରୀମାନ ହରିବନ୍ଧୁ ପାଣିଗ୍ରାହୀ ଅଟନ୍ତି। ତାଙ୍କୁ ଏହି ସଭାର ସଭାପତିତ୍ୱ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରି ସଭାପତି ରୂପେ ଆସନ ଅଳଙ୍କୃତ କରିବାକୁ ମୁଁ ଆହ୍ୱାନ ଜଣାଏ। ସ୍ୱାଗତ ଗୁରୁଦେବ, ଆପଣ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଆସନ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରନ୍ତୁ।
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆପଣ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକ୍ରମଟିକୁ ଆଗକୁ ବଢ଼ାଇ ନେବା ନିମନ୍ତେ ଅନୁରୋଧ ଜଣାଏ। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ସାର୍।
ଆଜି ସୋନପୁର ଜିଲ୍ଲା ଆଭାସୀ ଆସରରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ଜ୍ଞାନୀ ଗୁଣୀ ଏବଂ ଆଜୀବନ ସଦସ୍ୟ ରାଜ୍ୟ କର୍ମକର୍ତ୍ତା ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ ମୋର ପ୍ରଣତି ଜଣାଉଛି। ଆଜି ବିବେକାନନ୍ଦଙ୍କ ଜୟନ୍ତୀରେ ସୋନପୁର ମାଟିର ଗୋଟେ ସୁଯୋଗ୍ୟ ସନ୍ତାନ ଶ୍ରୀ ସସ୍ମିତ ସାହୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଅଭିଭାଷଣ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିବାକୁ ଯିବେ। ସେ ତରଭା ବାଳକ ହାଇସ୍କୁଲର ମ୍ୟାଟ୍ରିକ୍ ପାସ୍, ବରଗଡ଼, ରାଉରକେଲା ଏବଂ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ତଥା ପୁନାରେ ଇଞ୍ଜିନିୟରିଂ ଶିକ୍ଷା ସମାପ୍ତ ପରେ ସେ HPSLC ନାମକ ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ପାନୀ ନିଯୁକ୍ତି ପାଇ ଇଂଲଣ୍ଡ ଯାତ୍ରା ପରେ କରିଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ସେଇଠି ସେ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ସର୍ଭିସରେ ପ୍ରବେଶ କରି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ୟୁନିୟନ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ଅଫ୍ ସୁଇଜରଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଲଣ୍ଡନ ଶାଖାର ଗୋଟେ ଦାୟିତ୍ୱବାନ ପୋଷ୍ଟରେ ଅଧିଷ୍ଠିତ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି। ସେ ଇଂଲଣ୍ଡ ଅବସ୍ଥାପିତ ପରେ ପରେ ସେଠି ନାଗରିକତା ମଧ୍ୟ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିସାରିଛନ୍ତି। ତଥାପି ସେ ମାତୃଭୂମି ଓ ମାତୃଭାଷାର ମହକ ଭୁଲି ନାହାନ୍ତି। ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ ଗାଁକୁ ଆସି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ସମ୍ପର୍କ ଦୃଢ଼ କରିଥାନ୍ତି। ଏବେ ଆସିଥିଲେ। ଆଜି 42ତମ ଏହି ପାଠଚକ୍ରରେ ବିଶ୍ୱ ପରିଦୃଶ୍ୟରେ ପୁନର୍ଜାଗୃତ ଭାରତ, ଏହି ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କରୁଛି। ଶ୍ରୀ ସାହୁ।
नमस्कार सभापति महोदय, बोधे मते समस्ते शुणी पारुछंती?
हाँ ठीक ठीक अच्छे ठीक अच्छे
ଠିକ ଅଛି, ଠିକ ଅଛି,
Yeah.
ବହୁତ ବଢ଼ିଆ ଅଛି।
Uh,
ଇଂଲଣ୍ଡ ମାଟିରୁ ବି ତରଭାକୁ ଭଲ ଶୁଭୁଛି। ଭଲ ଶୁଭୁଛି।
मोर 20 वर्ष हला इंग्लैंड रही रेगुलर बेसिस रे मु आ ओडिया न्यूज पेपर पढ़ी पारुनी, तो मोर ओडिया रे किछि टिके भूल चूक हेले मते माफी करिवे। आ मु ओडिया और इंग्लिश टिके मिक्स करी की कहबी, कारण मोर रिसर्च
हाँ,
जेते
कह।
सब मु इंग्लिश रे लिखिथिली। तो एठी जेते उपस्थित गुणी ज्ञानी गुरुजन मोर निजर
नहीं,
बापा
नहीं, नहीं।
समस्त उपस्थित अछन। तो with all my due respect to the honorable member, I'm going to start my speech. एटा ए कॉन्टेक्स्ट रे हमें देखिबा लास्ट 500 वर्ष रे पृथ्वीर सबु देश किपरि भाबरे परिवर्तन हेची आ सेही सांगरे हमर भारत वर्ष र परिवर्तन किपरि भाबरे हेची आउ एबे आमे पुणी तार पुनरुत्थान प्रति केमती आगको बढ़ी जाउचा से विषय मु डिस्कस करिबी। तो मु स्टार्ट करिबी मोर स्पीच ता एंशिएंट सिविलाइजेशन ग्रीस आउ इंडिया रे अराउंड 2500 BC एंशिएंट ग्रीस रे सॉक्रेटिस प्लेटो और एरिस्टोटल गोटे की थॉट को नहीं की से डिस्कशन आरंभ कर सॉक्रेटिस को तांकर डीप फिलोसॉफिकल थिंकिंग रे से पचारि थिले द बेस्ट आर्गुमेंट शुड विन और सब बेले तांकर शिष्य प्लूटो सांगरे डिफरेंट जिनस रे आर्गुमेंट करिथिले लाइक जस्टिस लॉ एंड मेनी अदर थिंग तांकर शिष्य प्लूटो ताकू रिटेन भाबरे गोटे बही रे लिखिथिले द रिपब्लिक व्हिच इज स्टिल वैलिड टू दिस डेट आउ आमर सब गणतंत्र भारत सहित अमेरिका आउ बहुत राज्य पृथ्वी रे से गणतंत्र आड़कू जाइछंती सेटा आरंभ होइतिला फास्ट से आर्गुमेंट कल्चर रु सॉक्रेटिस ऑफ प्लूटो द रिपब्लिक लिखा जाइतिला से समय रे हमर भारत वर्ष रे सेमती जणे फिलोसोफर जणे गुरु या आमे तांको भगवान रवि दर्जा देइछा बुद्धदेव सिद्धार्थ गौतम बुद्ध आइछंती जे अल्टीमेट ट्रूथ रो सर्च रे जाइकी से कहते कि आमे केंती ए लाइफ रो बर्थ रिबर्थ साइकिल रु मुक्ति पाइबा और से ही केम अप विथ द अल्टीमेट लैंग्वेज कामनार विनाश रे दुखर विनाश आउ आमर ए ओडिसार कलिंग वार परे से बुद्ध धर्म सारा पृथ्वी आड़कू धीरे धीरे प्रचार है साउथ ईस्ट एशिया चाइना जापान जाय जाइछि मु फोकस हमर रखिबी लास्ट 500 वर्ष रे आ काहे कि दुईटा कंपैरिजन मेंशन कली 2500 वर्ष आगरु वेस्टर्न सिविलाइजेशन जोटा में कहूचा या हमर इंडियन सिविलाइजेशन से माने दुईटा विथ डीप फिलोसॉफिकल थिंकिंग गोटे स्पिरिचुअल डायरेक्शन रे आ गोटे हु शुड रूल से डायरेक्शन रे जाइथिले I'll pick up few key themes and start my 500 years journey with the start of the city-state in Italy called Florence and Venice. हजारे वर्ष रोम रो और रोमान एम्पायर रो डिक्लाइन परे पुणी थरे फ्लोरेंस और वेनिस भलिया सिटी स्टेट से गणतंत्र कल्चर द रिपब्लिकन कल्चर नहीं कि आउ थे गठन हबार आरंभ हो बसला से टाइम रे से माने सॉक्रेटिस रो से आर्गुमेंट को नेले द बेस्ट आर्गुमेंट शुड विन और प्लूटो रो क्वेश्चन हु शुड रूल द फंडामेंटल क्वेश्चन और हु शुड एजुकेट द एजुकेटर दोस टू आर स्टिल वैलिड in the current society also who should rule and who should educate the educator a Pluto ता विषय बहुत गुड़ाए आर्गुमेंट लिखिछंती आ तांकर शिष्य एरिस्टोटल आ गुटे बही लिखिछंती द पॉलिटिक्स जोठी से सजेस्ट करछंती हु शुड रूल से लिखिछंती जी झियो या पो बहुत अर्ली स्टेज रु आमे तांको चूज करिकी शिक्षा आउ फिजिकल फिटनेस क्षेत्र रे ट्रेनिंग देखी जे सबुठु श्रेष्ठ बाहरिबे दे शुड रूल बट आजिकार ए परिवेश रे आमे केते बेले एरिस्टोटल को क्वेश्चन करू इज इट एरिस्टोक्रेटिक जदि आमे तांको क्वेश्चन करबा आमे थोड़े बाबू निजे जे आजिकार बापा माँ माने तांको छुआ मान को कोनो भल स्कूल तापर भल यूनिवर्सिटी और भल जॉब इन गवर्नमेंट और इन प्राइवेट सेक्टर करबा चाहनांती If we question Aristotle, I think we are questioning ourselves as well. This is my personal view, but just a thought. Now I will start with that thought with the 1000 year of Roman decline, when around 1500 Florence and Venice started to evolve. There was a philosopher who started to prod all this ancient question from the Greek civilization called Machiavelli. And he started to ask the question why we lost our empire for 1000 years and what our ancient did right. And he started to focus, which is sometimes being criticized not in the good philosophical way, but he wrote a book called The Prince, which said that what a ruler should do. And he has said that the ruler's first priority is to protect the nation. For that, he might have to do certain immoral thing, which is not kind of, a philosophically right or a wrong question. But what he started to ask is, the ruler's first priority is to protect his citizen and country. And that should be his priority. आपण माने जदि आज भी देखिबे अमेरिका की any western country, they are all Machiavellian state. आमे जदि सेही समय को टिके इन्वेस्टिगेट करिबा, सेही समय रे इंडिया रे बाबर already around 1524, Babur already entered. He defeated Ibrahim Lodi in Battle of Panipat. ଆଉ ସେ ତାଙ୍କର ସାମ୍ରାଜ୍ୟ ବିସ୍ତାରରେ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଠିକ ସେଇ ସମୟରେ ଇଟାଲୀରେ ମେଡିଚି ପରିବାର, ଯେଉଁମାନେ they are not a royal family but they are the first banking dynasty, ତାଙ୍କର ପରିବାର with the republican concept from the philosophy of Machiavelli, they started to establish a rule which generated a lot of wealth as well as a republican society in Florence, and a similar republican society has been established in Venice with a deep trading connection with the China Silk Route. While that was happening in Italy, in England, Henry VIII was coming to power and he's starting to establish his rule. But I will take a step back. When Italy was under the Medici, that time is called the Renaissance period or Punarjagan period in Europe. Same time, under the Medici's power and their rule, they are not a king, but they are a republican government, like elected body. Ganatantra. Now, tankar patronage re, art, science, literature, they started to promote all. Now, same time, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, they came up with their greatest art, which kind of considered the Renaissance art around that period. Say samare Leonardo da Vinci, anatomy, au bahut anya kshetra re also agku jibaku lagithile. Ame jodi compare kariba, say Machiavellian thinking, which sometimes is not considered in good end, but it's considered only in the context of a ruler. England, Henry VIII was initially a Catholic monarch, and everything was ruled through the Holy Roman Empire, which is a Catholic monarch from Rome, including Florence and Venice, but they were an independent republic. So say samare Henry VIII first wife asithile Catherine of Aragon, Spain or Portugal under the Holy Roman Empire were growing out to be big power. ଆଉ ସେମାନେ तो सारा वर्ल्ड को दुई भाग रे विभाग करी एक्सप्लोरेशन आरंभ करी देइथिले with the Italian Renaissance thinking and the new science and the new thing which they started to discover. ଆଉ ସେଇ ସମୟରେ गुटेनबर्ग ର प्रिंटिंग प्रेस इन्वेंट हो जाइकी जर्मनी ର मार्टिन लूथर बाइबल को लाटिन रो ट्रांसलेट करिकी जर्मन, इंग्लिश, फ्रेंच in the local language, they started to spread. That means they started to challenge the conventional wisdom of the priest, what they were saying in Latin. Now the normal people can read what is written in the Bible, and they started to understand and start to challenge the status quo. And that led to one of the religious change moment within Europe. जेतबले Henry VIII England रे आइछन्ति, ठीक से टाइम रे बाबर आइछन्ति इंडिया को defeating Ibrahim Lodi. Henry VIII रो फर्स्ट वाइफ थिले स्पेन रो Catherine of Aragon रो झियो, but Catherine of Aragon sponsored one of the sail of Christopher Columbus, जे की इंडिया रो खोज रे, because setabele spice trading was only controlled by road, and Europe desperately want to find a route through sea so that they can challenge or get the spice in more efficiently, because they say that they are exchanging paper with the price of gold. which is very, very expensive in Venice or Florence. So they are desperate to get a sea route with which they can reach India and get spices, so that they can take the monopoly of the Islamic Empire, which was controlling the road trade. ସେଇଠି Catherine of Aragon ଆସିଥିଲେ Princess Isabella ଝିଅ, ସେ ଏଇ ସେଲ୍ କୁ allow କରିଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉଠି କ୍ରିଷ୍ଟୋଫର କଲମ୍ବସ ଯାଇକି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆର ସର୍ଚ୍ଚରେ he landed up in America. ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଷ୍ଟୋରି ଜାଣିଥିବେ, ମୁଁ ଡିଟେଲ କୁ ଯିବିନି, but that established the South American empire and the gold trade. They defeated the Aztec empire, the Inca empire, and other Spanish went in there, and they got a lot of gold, which made them really, really rich at that time. It was very unethical. We won't go there. And then there was another sale I will discuss around the time, because Spain and Portugal were next to neighboring each other. Portugal sponsored another selling trip, and they divide the world two parts. This half goes to Spain, the other half goes to Portugal, and Vasco da Gama started sailing, and which we know he ended up in Goa. And that started the Portuguese colony in here, while Babur, before Babur came to power, I think that colony started to establish and started to grow. तो आमे जदि तापरे देखिबा 1500 रे एटा थिला वर्ल्ड सिचुएशन। मु इंडिया टिके टच कली, आमे यूरोप टच कला, अमेरिका न्यू वर्ल्ड करी की डिस्कवरी आरंभ होला, आ गोटे सेलिंग रे पोर्चुगल रु वास्को ड गामा गोवा पहुंचली। आमे जदि ए समय रो टिके आ प्रतीक्षान करिबा, इंग्लैंड सता बेले गोटे बहुत small state under King Henry VIII started, sometime called as a mad king also, but he made some significant change in England, which is going to kind of, change the world landscape. Now, the first change, he didn't have a son, and the son of a king can be the king, I think. And in search of a male heir, he wanted to marry again. And he married one of his courtier called Anne Boleyn, who gave birth to Elizabeth. But the condition was Henry VIII need to change the religion from Catholicism to Protestant, which was written by Martin Luther King. And in Europe, the revolution which was going on to challenge the conventional wisdom of Rome and the Catholic thinking, Anne Boleyn asked Henry VIII if he can change the religion, he will do it. Now, Henry VIII had a prime minister called Thomas Cromwell, and sometimes he is referred as the Machiavellian prime minister of Henry VIII, and he helped him to change the religion by making Henry VIII at the head of the state and take away from the Holy Roman Empire. Now, this is a significant change. We will see later how it is going to impact the world landscape. Now, let's move on. Once this thing happening in India, Babur, then Humayun, then Akbar came in. And during the Akbar's reign, Akbar started to explore different religious ideas. And I think Deen Ilahi, apan mane samaste jani thibe, Akbar detail mo bahut detail ko jibini. Baki se time re jodi dekhiba ame England, Elizabeth during Henry VIII, he had 6 wives in the search of a male heir, but he ended up getting none. And finally, Elizabeth I, second wife's daughter, became the queen, one of the longest reigning monarch. Of say somewhere a both religious intolerance because Elizabeth I, because Anne Boleyn chose, she promoted Protestantism, but there were still Catholics, and there is a lot of religious intolerance in Europe. Kintu satabale India under Akbar, there was bit of a consolidation going on, bit of an open mind. Again, that is debatable. We won't go there further. Agute jinsame 1500 se dekhiba ki under Elizabeth's reign, there is one of the significant change came, which is going to drastically change the world landscape, the limited company. So they invented a concept called the limited company, with which East India Company, Royal African Company, And also, there is a company which is set up for America exploration by Walter Raleigh was formed. Now, East India Company, we know, and we will kind of, see what kind of tyranny they did in India over a period of, 200 years. But it started during the Elizabeth I's reign. They got the charter to do the exploration, and they got a trading license under Akbar's sons at Jahangir's time through Thomas Rao, the diplomat, during 1612. সেই সময় আমেরিকার লাগি ওয়াল্টার রালে he explored, went to America, formed a colony in North Carolina. There's a place called Raleigh itself. I have an office there as well. I've never got a chance to visit, but there is a place on his name. Say eastern side of America, which is the current United States, the colony started to expand. A Royal African Company, that itself is for slave trading. Now, I have explored a lot, and I think, a good session enough hoboni. But I just want to say this, in the history of human being, no human being has done such atrocious behavior against another human being what has happened during the slave trading. A baby, se sabus chinsa, even England history, etika school history padha jauni, na world history cover heni, keteta movie by Steven Spielberg, few others, or recent revolution on Black Lives Matter started to highlight few things. Mu just gote example deki ame au detail ku jibani. Semane jetebele slave trading Royal African Company arambho kole, they ship sail from the England to African coast. Seti semane jalo pokeki पशु को जेंती धरा जाए मनुष्य को धरिकी शिप रे तांको Caribbean coast को पठा जाउतला जोठी on the way there would be 30% people would be dead on the way. और तापरे सेटु सुगर नहीं की पुणी इंग्लैंड को आसुतला. Let's not focus on that. I would get distracted. Our focus, let's keep towards India. So America hala, the three major company is the main thing during Elizabeth the past reign. Tapare ama next stage ko let's go. India under the Mughal rule, then Jahangir started. They started expansion after Jahangir, which is Aurangzeb, and they started expanding further with a lot of tyranny as well. I think we have seen. I think the side of Aurangzeb, where he kind of put his tankar papan ko Shahjahan ko bandi bane, tankar bhai man ko sabo hatya karishanti. Very atrocious rule during his time. But setabele India re Chhatrapati Shivaji guerrilla warfare re, he started to challenge also the Mughal rule. But also there are other revolt on the south. There's a Vijayanagar Empire, which is in Hampi. Upon ebe Vijay ki dekhi paribe. It is one of the greatest empire which was formed around that time, which was there during the initial period of the Mughal rule. Au setabitar time nabo, but the last major empire within the Indian subcontinent is the Vijayanagar Empire. I think around the time Mughal came, say 1600 around it. Seita bithile. Au jodi ame America jiba, sei time re America re jo colony ta establish hala, sethi au loko England to migrate koriki religious intolerance plus Europe religious intolerance ru jiba pai America ko loko migrate kariba ko lagi thile. Now let's move into the 1600. Now in 1600, I'll again start from England. What changes happened after Elizabeth's death, which is around the same time around Akbar's? Then England again changed into a Catholic monarch because Elizabeth didn't marry and Elizabeth didn't have a heir who could rule. So the next best in kin was the monarch of Scotland, who was a Catholic ruler, James I, and England again changed back to a Catholic state from a Protestant state during Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. That brings a lot of religious intolerance, and his son, Charles I, even fuel it more. So what has happened is, during the period of Charles I's rule called the 1625 to 1649, sometime called the English Civil War. And during that time, in England, there is a revolution started to happen by forming a parliamentary military to challenge the royal military. And that parliamentarians who said that the parliament should be the ultimate ruler, they ultimately won the battle of the English Civil War. And this is the first time a king, which is the real monarch, is tried on a court and sentenced to death. So it's the regicide of Charles I. And the three judges who gave this ruling went to America afterward to form the University Yale. And now also there are 3 roads on their name, which started from there. So in parallel, America, that time in parallel, America was developing in the 1600s, and a lot of the people run away from religious intolerance, but also run away from this hierarchical society of Europe towards America. And let's see what was happening in India during that time. In the 1600s, again, I think Chhatrapati Shivaji started to challenge the Mughal rule. And there we have Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and then Aurangzeb. I think all of those, Taj Mahal being built during Shah Jahan's period. A lot of art, culture, renaissance happened under the Mughal patronage. They started to integrate with the Indian society. I won't go further because in this audience, upon money, more to basic around that period. But let's take a step back then. What happened after the regicide of a king, actually? In England, the monarch, there was no monarch, so Oliver Cromwell took the Lord Protector, and he temporarily took the charge. And then it passed on to Charles II, who got married to Catherine of Braganza from Portugal, who got a colony in India next to Goa called Bombay. Bombay means that time, bomb in Portuguese means good, bay means bay, good bay. He gave it as a dowry to Charles II, and that's how British got Bombay. So they already established through East India Company a port in Calcutta, and now also they got Bombay as part of their as part of Charles I's marriage. So East India Company start to use that port as well. And in the south, already kind of, they started to go towards Madras, Chennai. I think they started the port there. And through the East India Company, they started the route. So if you see around in 1600, the East India Company started expanding, forming the main cities in India, Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, for their trade network initially in 1612, what they got through Thomas Rao. Now, if we see this, okay, this network is getting established. And in England, during this time, a king was regicide, Lord Protector came, to Charles II came. But then there was another revolution happened after Charles II, that they wanted a Protestant monarch. So the parliament, which becomes superior after the regicide of the king, asked Netherlands to invade England of William of Orange. So parliament was getting more and more stronger in England than the king, actually. And they started to invade England, and William of Orange become king, who is again the Protestant monarch, and it's back into kind of another, again, the Protestant religion. That's called the Glorious Revolution in England. And the similar time, Chhatrapati Shivaji came, and the year started towards the 1700s. But before I go there, I touch upon 2 more philosophers which came during 1600, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. So after Machiavelli, taking that deep philosophical thinking, which is sometimes controversial, Thomas Hobbes, who lived during the period of English Civil War, see how government are in turmoil, and he written a book called Leviathan. The book's meaning is mother of children of pride. So what he said is, in the state of nature, human has two weaknesses: pride and fear of death. If a government can be formed where we can balance these two things by giving fear of death, means by creating law which can control the anarchical society by formulating a law with that fear of death, or kind of, now also if you see in our law, if someone breaking the law, there is punishment, which is kind of a fear of death in the extreme. And the pride is, for pride, people do certain thing which is unachievable, which is unimaginable sometime, like sometime in marriages and other, we can see in our society and other actually. So that's another aspect he said. But what he said, I think the key teaching from Thomas Hobbes is the faceless leader, or taking the prince from Machiavelli, is the person who should rule, like the current CEO of a company. It's a post, it can be held by anyone, or the foreign office. It's a post, but it can be held by anyone, like as Jaishankar now. So this concept is started to bring into government through Leviathan. And after that, another philosopher during 1600 came, John Locke, who started the idea of the government job is to protect the individual property, which is built by the work of any individual. So life, liberty, and property is what he started. But this philosophical thinking ultimately led to the American Revolution in the next 100 years, which you will see. But what was going on in India? Let's go back kind of, while this deep philosophical thinking going on, the society is changing at the world scale. India, in the tyrannical rule of the Aurangzeb, he is going towards more south and invading. Ultimately, his death come in 1707, which is also a crucial year, because the same year the United Kingdom was formed. So England was evolving. In Europe, kind of, there are different changes are happening, and the field is set for different innovation and invention, while India was going towards bit of a religious intolerance and infighting during the Aurangzeb period, religious intolerance, and afterwards, during the Maratha Empire started to expand. Then Nadir Shah invaded Delhi, sacked, took our Kohinoor, murdered Sihasan. We all know about that period. India was in a state of decline. Now, at this point, British had already the 3 ports, not the British actually, East India Company was there in India. They got control of the 3 ports, and they started to control a lot of the trade. And they got an opportunity in the 1757 Battle of Plassey, which is a decisive battle where, again, by taking the Machiavellian role, Clive bribed Mir Jafar, Sirajuddaullah's main governor, not to fight the war. So in the Battle of Plassey, default Sirajuddaulah lost. Clive, who is sometimes known as Clive of India. If you want to research Clive little bit, se jone normal loko England barthile, Jack East India Company first got a clerk role nation. From a clerk, he rise to a soldier. Then he started to control a squadron and rise the rank. Finally, which led to Battle of Plassey. He become like owning a state like Bengal, which that time was generating 100 times more revenue than England. England was 5 million population that time actually. So the kind of revenue they got from there, Clive himself was shocked, because he was generating more revenue than England. And they started the tyrannical, which kind of started the term loot. They took the taxation and started taking the money from the farmers and other, over the next 20 to 30 years, which damaged the economy of Bengal. And they started a famine, and that became England government started to come to the rescue of East India Company, and by putting a tax in American colony by the tea tax, which led to the Boston Tea Party Revolution and started to do the American Revolution, which started by the Declaration of Independence during 1776. After 100 years of the Locke thinking, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Every man has an unalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and they have all the details. And again, sometimes called Locke is the hidden founding father of America, because Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and all the founding fathers of America took the European philosophical thinking that time towards America. So how the events are linked? So the East India Company then got rescued by their government, the parliament in England, by putting a tax in America, which did the American Revolution. It triggered the American Revolution. But after that also, the British government did a change by putting a governor general in India, and Warren Hastings became the first governor general, which kind of from 1773 onwards, he started to kind of come here. They started to make some change and do some reconciliation, but they started the expansion mode. Like they took Bengal, then they went towards Buxar, they went towards more expansion with the kings who because India was quite a divided state at that point in time, with Mughal rule in some places going away after Aurangzeb's disintegration, and also small princely state from that time taking over. So there is a bit infighting going on across India, and British took it to their advantage, again with the Machiavellian principle. If a king doesn't have a heir, by default it would go to the British. And they built an army with the Indian soldier, with the people from India, which is supposed to be one of the largest army a company can own. Like East India Company, that time in the 1700s, was owning an army of 250,000, an individual company, and trying to encroach into the princely state, which is a bit weak within India, and started to play the divide and rule policy within India. Now that led to ultimate dissatisfaction. And also the soldier which they have trained, they started to revolt, which show up during our first war of independence, or sometimes like the British said before, which we have been taught is the Sepoy Mutiny. But that first war of independence, what that taught us is the army which East India Company has built, that army revolted against them. And it could have, and the result could have been quite substantial on there, but because there is a lot of infighting within India, it was in such a divided state. With their divide and rule policy, again, the British could suppress and the crown took over the rule. But after that, East India Company ceased to have control of India. It was such a big state, the British crown took over. That means now there will be a viceroy, and it would be controlled by the British Parliament, and the monarch would be the head of the state, not the East India Company like it was running before with a governor general. So with that change, if we go back a little bit now to end part of 1700s, there are two main things happen. American Revolution, after which they defeated Cornwallis in the Battle of Yorktown in 1781, and Cornwallis came back as a governor general जे कि चिरस्थायी बंदोबस्त प्रथा लगेइथिले आमर जमींदारी प्रथा आपण माने गुटे one of the many event. He was defeated in the American revolution, ultimately changing the battle tactic there, and American finally Washington becoming the president there. And subsequently, there was another thing happened in Europe, which is quite seismic. In 1789, French Revolution, my esteemed teacher Haribandhu sir, mate Farasi Rashtra Biplab पढ़ेइथिले मते एबे भी मने अछि. It's a quite a seismic event कारण सेठी भी तांकर रानी को समाने गुलेटिन कर देइछंती. But it was an anarchy. In England, the Civil War, they tried their king and they sentenced him to death. Here, the public took the control under Robespierre and they toppled the king, and the public took the control, which created an anarchical state, after which Napoleon came to power and he started to expand. And Napoleon, just to put the context, after John Locke, there was another French philosopher called Jean-Jacques Rousseau who came, and our school de padha jaye social contract was written, the social contract, and also last time he came up with the bourgeois and the proletariat concept, which Karl Marx later on used for the Das Kapital, which is a different thing. Under the Jean-Jacques Rousseau's philosophical thinking, I think, which is Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, so the French Revolution started, which started to expand in Europe, freeing up society from the kingly rule and starting to establish more republican culture. So that was a major change in Europe. So if we come back then to India, after the monarch take control, then for the next few years, I think, for the benefit of the British or their kind of rule, they started to take materials from India. They want to sell, because England was going through industrial revolution that time. England was become kind of one of the richest country that time in 1800 because of their colony, and India become the crown, India the crown jewel, because it was giving them the maximum revenue, because they were selling products, they were taking raw material, and they started to build the railways that time in India to help themselves, but that indirectly benefited India. So during the British rule in 1800, few things which the British did for their benefit, that indirectly started to benefit India. Like they started to establish like Macaulay, famous term, controversial, but I think, people who look brown in color but think like British is that. But the thing is that thinking with that Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, they started to kind of, bring that Renaissance thinking within India. And with the British coming, establishing schools and universities, colleges, it started to benefit the local population. I think Calcutta or the Bengal benefited first because they were there. And then they started to move towards, after the First War of Independence, then there's a period of hiatus. But if you see, a lot of people during that time, like Gandhi, Sardar Patel, and others, they started to come study in London. They saw the society is quite different here. They're quite tolerant, they are democratic. Even though the king is the head of the state, it's run by the parliament. And they saw the change, and they studied the law, which gave them the intellectual curiosity of the thinking. Or Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Rabindranath Tagore, Gokhale, Tilak, and ultimately they started to form the Indian National Congress in the 1885 with one of the Scottish supporter, Dr. Hume, supporting the formation of the Congress. But it was formed by a lot of the intellectuals who started to benefit from the British education systems and the learning over the past. I think they started to benefit from there, and India from that. Initially, they were quite pro-British, in my opinion. Dadabhai Naroji was there, who later became an MP from Southall, which is not very far from my place here. And also, I think, but they started to challenge the government. That culture started. And then Gokhale, Tilak, ultimately that time, our founding father, Mahatma Gandhi, who started his initial revolution of civil disobedience in South Africa. He has been invited back to India in 1905 when he first came. I think I won't go through the detail because you all would know. He started to change from a Congress, from an elitist or more pro-British towards the common man's Congress. And some people didn't like it. Jinnah, obviously, one of them. There are a few others who didn't like it because they want to be elitist and want to remain the Congress that way. But Gandhi changed the dynamics with the civil disobedience, with the Chori Chora event. He took it back in 1920s. During this time, World War started to happen, which itself is a subject. Probably time won't permit. I won't go there. But I moved towards which led to Quit India movement and India's freedom. After India got its freedom, we become a republic in 1950. In the same Plato, Aristotle idea, we become a republic. And also after that, we moved on till 1991 when the liberalization happened under Manmohan Singh. We developed a lot under our first Prime Minister, Pandit Nehru, Hirakud Dam, one of the project which was there. But then after liberalization, we again started to invite foreign capital, and our people within software, I am one of them who benefited from them, started to migrate across various countries in the world. We have around 40 million non-resident Indian as of now, which is a substantial number, like the size of some of the country. And you will see India becoming now the third largest economy. And the irony is Rishi Sunak, who is the child of one of those Indian diaspora who migrated to Kenya during British rule, he came over here and becomes UK's Prime Minister, the last Prime Minister. So India at this stage, after the liberalization, with the renewed thinking we are getting, with the Republic, with our past learning, ancient learning from Buddha, Jaina, and others, also with the latest learning, what we can take from the Europe, I think we are in the right path for the success. And I would finish with one of the Upanishad, which is Brihadaranya Upanishad from the 9th century BC. And I'll end with this. Asotoma Satkamaya, Tamosotma Jatirkamaya, Mrityurma Amritakamaya. From falsehood unto truth, from darkness unto light, from death unto immortality, India will rise again. With that, I will finish. Did I cover in time, sir?
Yes. In time, eh?
I think I can take any question if there is any.
Yes.
Yeah, I am Gauri Shankar Patnaik speaking.
Hi.
Hello.
हाँ
Am I
Hello, sir.
audible?
Yeah,
कौन तो
अच्छा मु गौरी शंकर पटनायक कहूची मु जेके रे रहे रायगड़ा रो ही बासिंदा. It was really great to hear the entire 1500 years history. I keep interest in this. My question has three parts. One is the present ruler, whoever is there, is he in the right path? Second is, what is the behavior of the opposition now, where it will lead? And third part is, do the other communal activities are going on, do the other community will capture again in future?
See, there is always imbalance. I won't go into a lot of political discussion, but if you see America, if you see Europe, I think, yeah. Sorry, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah. So
Yes,
my comment would be, I think now in the whole world, I think there is a bit of difficult situation going on in terms of the politics. You say, like Trump coming in America, the entire Europe going towards right wing again, which happened during World War I and World War II. If you see, and I think in India also there is religious intolerance. I do agree. But I think this is that time of the year. I think there are who should rule is a fundamental question, right? And democracy is a type of rule. There is oligarchy, there is autocracy, there is benevolent autocracy. There are different form of government, but democracy kind of is sustaining to some extent, but it is not the best form of government, because it's a tyranny of majority against the minority sometimes. So I won't be able to answer your question fully, but I would only comment that the whole world is going through a turmoil period. But if you see kind of history, things settle down and the good prevail. That's why I ended with the Brihanyak Upanishad statement at my end.
No, but with the expansion of Muslim community across the world, they are trying to capture the world as soon as possible. So, in that journey where we are, is it possible to capture again to Hinduism?
Very, very controversial.
It is it's controversial actually.
एगुड़ा अवॉइड करले बेटर डिस्कशन रे रिलीजन के एगुड़ा अवॉइड करले बेटर ठीक है
এটা avoid করবা।
रे एगुड़ा
Please try to avoid communal.
सर मोर गोटे कमेंट अछि एक्चुअली आपण हमको बहुत जल्दी बहुत बढ़िया जिंस पढाई देले 45 मिनिट्स भीतर हम नवा जिंस बहुत सिखिलु बर्तन एटा गोटे एबे जो नोबेल प्राइज पाइले इन इकोनॉमिक्स ताकर गोटे होची कोन कॉलोनाइजेशन पाई इंडिया रो सब नै गला पर माने छाडी पळले इंडिया को हमें जदी कहबा जे हमें वर्ल्ड को लो ये कोलु एटा तो गोटे पार्ट आ गोटे पार्ट होची इंडिया रा किछ नथिला ना बाकू तेणु कर दे लेफ्ट इट वर्तमान किंतु गोटे भलो पोजीशन आइछि वर्तमान हम पई आपण माने जेमती अछंती बाहरे एनआरआई जो कोले एते एनआरआई अछंती एबे भी हमर चैनला जो ओडिसा रे हमर प्रवासी भारतीयंकर ये उडा एमान जदी प्रकृति सबडे खेली जानते एवं ताकू पुणी भारतीय जिनिसटे जदी बाहरता ताले हम होल वर्ल्ड को कवर कर पारते इट इज अ वेरी गुड थिंग जदी आप माने एटा आवरी स्प्रेड होता एवं केतळ समस्त रोडे हम भारतीय बाद गोटे आसंता कि भारतीय जातीयतावाद गोटे आसंता ताले बहुत बढ़िया होता बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
थैंक यू सर आउ से प्रवासी भारतीय विषय मो जस्ट गोटे पॉइंट कहबी कि एबे जदी देखिबे जेतो 40 मिलियन बाहर अछंती गोटे सॉफ्ट पावर इंडिया को भी का मिली जायछि लाइक गूगल माइक्रोसॉफ्ट सबरो सीईओ माने अछंती बाय डिफॉल्ट गेटिंग अ सॉफ्ट पावर and we all have our attachment with India.
नहीं सनक जेतळे आमे खुशी हेलु जेतळे कमला हैरिस हला आमे खुशी हेलु आपण माने जेतळे छन आमे खुशी होउछु यू आर नॉट माने ब्रिटिश आपण यूके रो जते ये थिले भी आमे बर्तन कहू यू आर इंडिया आमे से आपण को इंडियन एटा आमे जो माने भारी दूर होंतु आमे कहू इंडियन आ इंडियन जातीयवाद आसिले आमे निहाती आमे भाबुछु और पृथ्वी को कैन कंट्रोल
आज्ञा सेया अछि
आमे जा ठीक है दिवस हो वर्तमान बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपण बहुत भल लागला धन्यवाद
ठीक है प्रेसिडेंशियल रिमार्क ठीक है
नहीं मैडम
प्रेसिडेंशियल रिमार्क टे दोन सर
हां साधु सर
आज्ञा
हां
कहमी कि दे देबे सर
हां नहीं कोई दोसी आउ कहबा तो कोई दोसी
प्रेसिडेंशियल रिमार्क कर देबे नहीं
हां
और सम
कोई नहीं तो
ए मिनट के 2 मिनट कहि दो
हां अब तो समय नहीं
हां
आज जो आलोचना कार्यक्रम बहुत प्रेरणा देथिला एवं इन्फॉर्मेटिव थिला 500 वर्ष पूर्व जो कहानी जो इतिहास एता एंशियंट ग्रीस ठाରୁ आरंभ करी भारत वर्ष अमेरिका से थिबा जो इंग्लिश जो अमेरिकन वार ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस मैकियावेली एवं भारतर मुगल साम्राज्य रो जो विभिन्न प्रकार धर्मनीति अकबर जो टॉलरेंस पॉलिसी सबुगुड़िक आज वक्ता बहुत सुंदर भाव में परिप्रकाश कले एवं गुटेनबर्ग ठाରୁ आरंभ करी आमर जो महात्मा गांधी पर्यंत जो स्वाधीनता संग्राम ताकू सुंदर भाव उपस्थापन कले
ଓ ବହୁତ କ୍ରିଟିକାଲି ମଧ୍ୟ ତାକୁ ଆନାଲାଇଜ୍ କଲେ, ସେଇଟା ବଡ଼ କଥା। ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ଯେ ଯେଉଁ ଇଂରେଜମାନଙ୍କର ଇଷ୍ଟ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ କିପରି ଭାରତବର୍ଷରେ 3ଟା ବନ୍ଦର ଦଖଲ କରି ପୁଣି ଭିତରକୁ ଯାଇ ପ୍ରବେଶ କଲେ ଏବଂ ଭାରତର ସବୁ କଞ୍ଚାମାଲ ନେଇ ଆମକୁ ଫିନିଶ ପ୍ରଡ଼କ୍ଟ ଆସି ବିକ୍ରି କଲେ, ସମସ୍ତ ବିଷୟବସ୍ତୁକୁ ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଭାବରେ ପ୍ରକାଶ କଲେ। ଏବଂ ଆମର ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସମୟ ଆସିଛି ଯେ ଆମେ ମଧ୍ୟ ପୃଥିବୀରେ ଗୋଟେ ଅଗ୍ରଣୀ ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ର ଭାବରେ, ତୃତୀୟ ଅର୍ଥନୈତିକ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିରୁ ସବଳ ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ର ଭାବରେ ଆମର ପ୍ରଧାନମନ୍ତ୍ରୀଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ଆଶା ରହିଛି ସେଇଟା ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେବ। ଏବଂ ଯେଉଁ 40 ମିଲିୟନ୍ସ ନନ୍ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ୍ସ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଆମ ଦେଶକୁ ଯଦି ଫେରିଆସିବେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମଧ୍ୟ ପଥ ପରିଷ୍କାର କରିବେ ବୋଲି ମୁଁ ଆଶା କରୁଛି। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା। ଆମର ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଶୁଣିବା ପାଇଁ ଆଉ ମୋତେ ଅପରଚୁନିଟି ଦେବା ପାଇଁ।
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଭଉଣୀ।
ହଁ
ହଁ
ଯମୁନା ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ନାଇଁ ତରଙ୍ଗିନୀ ଅଛନ୍ ଯେ
ତରଙ୍ଗିଣୀ କାଁ ପାଟି ବସିଯାଇଛି ବୋଲୁଥିଲେ
ହଁ
ତରଙ୍ଗିଣୀ ନା ଆମେ
କାଁ
ଯମୁନା।
ପାର୍ଟି ବସିଥିଲେ ହେଲେ
କହିଦେବ।
କହ ତରଙ୍ଗିଣୀ କହ।
ହଁ ଆସରରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ଆମର ତରଙ୍ଗିନୀ ଭଉଣୀଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ ଆହ୍ୱାନ କରେ ସେ ଆଜି ଆସରରେ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ପର୍ବଟାକୁ ଉପସ୍ଥାପନା କରିବା ହେବି। ସ୍ଵାଗତ ତରଙ୍ଗିଣୀ ଭଉଣୀ। ତରଙ୍ଗିନୀ
ନିଜେ କହିଦିଅ ଆଉ କାହିଁକି
ବୋଧେ ନାଇଁ ନ
ନାଇଁ ନ
ନାଇଁ ନ
କହିଦିଅ।
ଲେଫ୍ଟ ହେଇଗଲେ
ନିଜେ
ବାକି
କହିଦିଅ।
ଲାଗୁଛି।
ଏଠି ଅଛନ୍ ଅଛନ୍ ହଁ
ହଁ
କହିଦିଅ ସର୍ଟ ରେ କହିଦିଅ ମାନେ
ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୋର ପ୍ରଣାମ। ଭଏସ ପୁରା ବସି ହେଇଯାଇଥିଲେ ମୁଁ ମନା କରୁଥିଲି।
ବଢିଆ ଶୁଭୁଛେ ବଢିଆ
ସବକଟ ତଣ୍ଟି
ଶୁଭୁଛେ ବିପଦ ତ
ସବକଟ
ପର୍ବ
ତଣ୍ଟି ମାନେ ବସିଛେ ଆଜି ଆଜ୍ଞାଙ୍କ
ଜବରଦସ୍ତ କରନ୍ତୁ ବୋଲେ।
ସମସ୍ତ ଆସନରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ସମସ୍ତ ଜ୍ଞାନୀ ଗୁଣୀ ଜନ ଆଉ ସମସ୍ତ ସଦସ୍ୟଙ୍କୁ ମୋର ପ୍ରଣାମ। ଆଜିକାର ଆମର ଆଭାସୀ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକ୍ରମରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭିକ ମନ୍ତ୍ର ପାଠ ବା ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରାରମ୍ଭିକ ସଙ୍ଗୀତ ଆମକୁ ଶୁଣେଇଥିଲେ ଆମର ଶଙ୍କର୍ଷଣ ସାର୍ ତାଙ୍କୁ ବହୁତ ବହୁତ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ତାପରେ ଆମର ସଭାପତି ଆମର ପାଣିଗ୍ରାହୀ ସାର୍ ସେ ବି ସଭାପତିତ୍ୱ ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଭାବରେ ନିଭେଇଛନ୍ତି। ତାଙ୍କୁ ବି ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଅନେକ ଅନେକ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ଆଉ ସରରେ ଆମର ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଆଜିର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ପ୍ରଦାନ କରୁଥିବା ସଂସିତ ସାର୍ ସେ ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଭାବରେ ତାଙ୍କର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ସମସ୍ତେ ଆପ୍ୟାୟିତ ହେଇଯାଇଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ସାର୍ ଙ୍କୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଅନେକ ଅନେକ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ଏମିତି ଆମକୁ ଅନ୍ୟ ସମୟରେ ବି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଚାହିଁବୁ ତାଙ୍କ ଠାରୁ ଆମେ ଶୁଣିବୁ ସେଇ ଆଶା ରଖୁଛୁ। ସାର୍ ଙ୍କୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ବହୁତ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ଆଉ ଆମ ସଂଯୋଜନା କରୁଥିବା ନୀଳକାନ୍ତି ଦିଦି ସେ ବି ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଭାବରେ ସଂଯୋଜନା କରି ଆଜିର ଆସରକୁ ବହୁତ ମନୋରଞ୍ଜିତ କରିଛନ୍ତି ସଫଳ ମଣ୍ଡିତ ହେବାରେ ସହାୟକ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ନୀଳକାନ୍ତି ଦିଦିଙ୍କୁ ବି ବହୁତ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ଆଜିକାର ଆସରରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ଥିବା ଆମ ସୁବର୍ଣ୍ଣପୁର ଜିଲ୍ଲାର ସଭାପତି ଆମ ଦେବେନ୍ଦ୍ର ବିଜୟ ସାର୍ ଆଉ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଯୋଉ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଜିଲ୍ଲାର ସଦସ୍ୟ ବୃନ୍ଦ ଆଉ ଆମର ଏଇ ଲୋକ ସଂସଦର ମୁଖ୍ୟ ଗଣ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଅଶେଷ ଅଶେଷ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଦେଇ ମୁଁ ମୋର ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ପର୍ବକୁ ଶେଷ କରୁଛି। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଭଉଣୀ ତମକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ପର୍ବ ସୁଚାରୁ ରୂପେ ଉପସ୍ଥାପନା କରିଥିବାରୁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଶାନ୍ତି ପାଠ ପାଇଁ ଯମୁନା ଭଉଣୀକୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ ରଖିବି ସେ ଶାନ୍ତି ପାଠ ଟିକେ କରିବା ହେବେ। ସ୍ଵାଗତ ଯମୁନା।
ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ବାନ୍ଧବୀ। ଓମ୍ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମଦ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମିଦଂ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମେବାବଶିଷ୍ୟତେ पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय
ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମେବ
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ अन्तरिक्ष शान्तिः आप शान्तिः वायु शान्तिः धरती शान्तिः सर्वरिष्ट शान्ति 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 शान्ति।
ଦେବେନ୍ଦ୍ର କାଣା ଇଟା କ'ଣ ଡିସ୍କସନ୍ କାଣା କ'ଣ ପଚାରିନୁ ଶଙ୍କର ଶୁଣ ଅଛନ୍ତି କେ
ନାଇଁ